Some breaking news to get to this morning. Singer Bonnie Tyler has died. She topped the charts with songs like Total Eclipse of the Heart and Holding Out for a Hero. Her family posted on Facebook.
On July 9th, 2026, Bonnie Tyler's family confirmed the tragic news that the legendary singer had passed away at the age of 75 after a private battle with a serious illness. For weeks, her husband, Robert Sullivan, the man who stood beside Bonnie Tyler for more than 50 years, stayed quiet while the world mourned. But now, for the first time since her death, Robert Sullivan is finally breaking his silence. What did he witness in her final days? What private battle did she fight, hidden from the public eye before the world lost her voice forever? Behind the headlines was a far more personal story of love, heartbreak, and quiet devotion. The day the music fell silent. It happened on a quiet Thursday. Bonnie Tyler's family had shared some very sad news. They said Bonnie had died suddenly in the middle of the night in a hospital far away from home in Portugal. She was 75 years old. For months, something had been wrong with her. Fans reportedly knew she was sick, but almost nobody knew how serious it really was. People close to her say she had been fighting quietly, behind closed hospital doors, far away from the bright stage lights she had lived under for most of her life. Her family asked for privacy. They said they were heartbroken. They said they needed time to grieve. But it is hard to keep something private when your voice has touched so many people around the world. Within hours, her website was flooded with visitors. Thousands of fans rushed to find out if the news was true. They kept refreshing the page, hoping it was some kind of mistake. It was not a mistake. It was real, and it was final. Messages of love began pouring in from every direction. They came from fans, but also from powerful leaders. A spokesperson for British Prime Minister Keir Starmer reportedly called her one of the greatest recording artists Britain had ever produced. Leaders in Wales called her a true icon of her homeland. Her longtime representative, Judd Lander, said she was one of a kind, with a stunning voice and a warmth that filled any room she walked into. Other famous faces shared their sadness too. Actress Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is also proudly from Wales, said her heart was broken by the loss. To a lot of people, Bonnie Tyler was just the woman who sang a few unforgettable songs. Her voice had played at weddings, karaoke nights, and in movies for almost 50 years. But calling her only an 80s singer misses the bigger story. She was proof that someone from a small mining town could still dream big. She showed the world that a raspy, imperfect voice could still become one of the most loved sounds in music. She belonged not just to Wales, but to the whole world. As the tributes kept coming, one question sat quietly underneath all the sadness. How did someone so full of life fall so suddenly? The public statements did not explain much. They only shared sorrow. While the whole world mourned a music legend, only the people closest to her truly knew how hard she had been fighting to stay alive. So what really happened inside that hospital room in Portugal? The truth was more frightening than anyone could have guessed. The medical battle that ended too soon. It started with an emergency. Bonnie Tyler was rushed into a hospital in Portugal, and doctors quickly discovered something very dangerous. She had a perforated intestine, a tear inside her body that needed surgery right away. There was no time to wait. The surgery was serious. After it was done, doctors made a hard decision. They placed Bonnie into a medically induced coma. A medically induced coma is not like normal sleep. Doctors use strong medicine to shut down the brain for a while. They do this so the body can rest and heal without pain or stress. It sounds frightening, but sometimes it is the only way to give a very sick body a real chance to survive. For Bonnie, the coma was supposed to help her heal. Instead, more problems followed. She was placed on a ventilator, a machine that breathed for her because her body could not do it alone. Then came something even more frightening. Reports say she suffered a brief cardiac arrest, meaning her heart stopped for a moment before doctors were able to bring her back. Weeks passed with no clear answers. Fans around the world waited anxiously, hoping for good news. Many prayed quietly, refreshing news pages every day, hoping to hear that she was getting better. Then, after nearly a month, something hopeful happened. Bonnie woke up. She had come out of the coma, but she was still very sick. Her body had been through so much, and doctors said she remained in intensive care. Her planned summer concerts, shows fans had waited years for, were quietly canceled. It was a small sign of just how serious things really were. Through it all, one person never left her side. Her husband, Robert Sullivan, stayed close to her, hour after hour, day after day. He was there when she was strong, and he was there when she was fighting simply to breathe. Despite everything doctors tried, Bonnie's body could not fully recover. The damage from the surgery, the coma, and the weeks in intensive care had taken too much from her. In the end, it was not the music industry or the pressure of fame that took her life. It was a quiet, private battle inside a hospital room, far away from the stages she loved so much. Robert stayed there until her very last moment. He held on to her the same way he had held on to their love for more than 50 years. It is a painful reminder that even the strongest voices in the world are carried by very human bodies. Bodies that can grow tired, bodies that can break. To understand why this loss feels so deeply personal to so many people, we have to go back much further. Back before the fame, back before the hit songs, back to a small mining town in Wales where a young girl named Gaynor Hopkins first began to dream. From a Welsh mining town to an impossible dream. Long before the world knew the name Bonnie Tyler, there was a little girl named Gaynor Hopkins. She was born in South Wales, in a small town shaped by coal mines and hard work. Her family did not have much money. Her father worked as a coal miner, a tough and tiring job that barely paid enough to get by. Life in her house was simple. There were no fancy things, no easy comforts. Instead, there was something else, something that mattered even more. There was music. Her childhood was filled with the sound of church hymns on Sunday mornings and the soft hum of songs playing at home. Music was not just entertainment for her family. It was comfort. It was joy in a life that did not offer many luxuries. As young Gaynor grew older, she found herself drawn to powerful emotional voices. She listened closely to Elvis Presley, admiring his energy. She listened to Frank Sinatra, amazed by his smooth and confident style. She listened to the Beatles, feeling the excitement of a changing world. She listened to Janis Joplin and Tina Turner, two women whose raw, passionate voices seemed to reach right into the soul. Something inside her began to stir, a quiet feeling that maybe, just maybe, she could sing too. It was not an easy dream to chase. Girls from small mining towns were not expected to become famous singers. Most people around her worked hard, ordinary jobs, and dreamed small, safe dreams. But Gaynor's dream refused to stay small. She began singing in public, nervously at first, testing her voice in front of other people. Every performance was a small step away from the world she knew and a small step toward a future nobody could have predicted. She had no way of knowing it yet, but this shy girl from a Welsh mining town would one day become one of the most recognized voices in music history. Her name would be sung in stadiums, played on the radio in dozens of countries, and remembered decades later by millions of people who had never even visited Wales. But before any of that could happen, something almost took it all away. Just as her dream was starting to take shape, a serious and frightening medical problem appeared. It threatened to end everything before it truly began, before the world ever had the chance to hear the powerful, raspy voice that would one day break hearts and top the charts around the globe. The voice that was almost lost forever. Just as young Bonnie Tyler was beginning to chase her dream, her body gave her a frightening warning. Doctors discovered vocal nodules on her throat. These are small, painful growths that can form when someone sings or talks too much without rest. For a singer, nodules are terrifying. They can quietly steal away the one thing a singer depends on most, their voice. Doctors told her that surgery was the only real option. Vocal cord surgery is incredibly risky, especially for a singer. The vocal cords are delicate, thin, and easily damaged. Even a tiny mistake during surgery can change a person's voice forever, sometimes for the worse. For someone hoping for a singing career, This kind of surgery can feel like gambling with their entire future. Bonnie was terrified. She feared that after the surgery she might never be able to sing again. Everything she had dreamed about, every stage she imagined standing on, suddenly felt like it could disappear. She went through with the surgery anyway. When she woke up, her voice was different. It was rougher, deeper, and rasping in a way it had never been before. At first, this must have felt frightening, like losing the voice she once knew. But something unexpected happened. Instead of ending her career, that rough, raspy voice became her most powerful gift. It gave her sound something no other singer had. It sounded like real pain, real strength, and real emotion, all wrapped into one voice. Audiences were captivated the moment they heard it. Her song Lost in France introduced her to audiences across Europe, opening doors that had once felt impossible to reach. Then came It's a Heartache, a song that turned her from a hopeful young singer into a true international star. The very thing that once terrified her, the surgery that could have ended everything, had instead created the sound that would one day be recognized around the entire world. It is a strange kind of miracle. A frightening medical risk had accidentally given music one of its most unforgettable voices.
Well-known singer Bonnie Tyler has died at the age of 76. The Welsh star, known for her gravelly voice, was best known for the hits Total Eclipse of the Heart and Holding Out for a Hero.
Little did she know, this was only the beginning. Her raspy new voice was about to meet the perfect songs and the perfect partner to turn her into a legend. Then came the partnership that would change not only her career, but the history of music itself. The songs that made Bonnie Tyler immortal. By the early 1980s, Bonnie Tyler's raspy voice had already turned heads across Europe. But she was about to meet someone who would change everything. His name was Jim Steinman. He was a legendary songwriter known for writing big, dramatic, powerful songs, the kind that felt like entire movies, packed into just a few minutes of music. When Bonnie and Jim came together, something magical happened. Their partnership gave the world Total Eclipse of the Heart. The song was massive. It was emotional, sweeping, and unlike anything else on the radio at the time. It shot straight to #1, not just in one country, but around the entire world. Fans everywhere fell in love with its dramatic power and Bonnie's unforgettable voice. She did not stop there. Her album Faster Than the Speed of Night became a huge success, proving that Total Eclipse of the Heart was not just a lucky moment. Bonnie truly had something special. Then came Holding Out for a Hero, another song that would go on to become a timeless classic. Decades later, it would still be played in movies, television shows, and sporting events, introducing her voice to generation after generation of new fans. Her incredible talent earned her Grammy nominations, a huge honor in the music world. Over the years, she sold more than 100 million records, an almost unimaginable number for any artist. Bonnie Tyler, the coal miner's daughter from a small Welsh town, had become one of the greatest musical legends her country had ever produced. Her voice, the one doctors had once feared she might lose forever, was now echoing through radios, dance floors, and concert halls all over the planet. The world knew Bonnie Tyler as the fearless woman with the unforgettable voice. Her songs filled stadiums, topped music charts, and touched millions of hearts across the globe. But when the bright lights faded and the crowds went home, there was one person who was always waiting for her. He rarely gave interviews, almost never searched for attention, and quietly built a remarkable life of his own. Long before he became known as Bonnie Tyler's husband, Robert Sullivan had a story that deserves to be told. The man behind Bonnie Tyler. Before the world knew Robert Sullivan as Bonnie Tyler's devoted husband, he was already building a life of his own. Most people only remember him as the quiet man standing beside one of the biggest music stars in history. But long before Bonnie's songs filled stadiums and climbed music charts around the world, Robert had dreams, ambitions, and a career that demanded just as much determination. He never chased fame the way Bonnie did. Instead, he chose a path that was quieter, steadier, and built on discipline. It was that quiet strength that would one day become one of the greatest gifts Bonnie Tyler ever received. Robert Sullivan grew up in Britain during a time when hard work was respected above almost everything else. As a young man, he discovered a passion for judo, a sport that teaches patience, balance, discipline, and respect. Unlike many sports that depend only on speed or strength, judo requires careful thinking. Every movement matters. Every decision can change the outcome in a single moment. Robert threw himself into training with complete focus, spending countless hours learning techniques and pushing his body to its limits. His determination soon began to pay off. His talent continued to grow until he earned something very few athletes ever achieve. He represented Great Britain at the Olympic Games. For any athlete, reaching the Olympics is the result of years of sacrifice. It means waking up before sunrise, training when others are resting, and refusing to give up after difficult setbacks. Even though Robert did not become a household name, simply wearing his country's colors on the world's biggest sporting stage was an achievement that spoke volumes about his character. It showed that he was a man who believed success came through effort rather than luck. After his competitive sporting career ended, Robert faced the same challenge that many athletes eventually encounter. He had to begin a completely different chapter of life. Instead of remaining in sports, he entered the world of business. He worked hard, learned quickly, and gradually became a successful property developer. While Bonnie Tyler would one day become famous for performing under bright stage lights, Robert found satisfaction building investments and creating a secure future away from cameras and applause. His business career quietly flourished, allowing him to enjoy success without ever seeking public attention. Unlike many husbands of famous entertainers, Robert rarely appeared in headlines. He was not interested in becoming a celebrity himself. He preferred privacy over publicity and family over fame. Friends often described him as calm, dependable, and loyal. Those qualities became even more valuable once Bonnie's music career began to explode. As her popularity spread across Europe, America, and eventually the rest of the world, Robert remained the steady person waiting behind the curtain while everyone else focused on the woman standing under the spotlight. Many people assumed Robert simply lived in Bonnie's shadow, but that was never the full story. He had already built his own successful life before millions of people knew Bonnie's name. His achievements were simply measured differently. While Bonnie collected applause, Robert built stability. While she traveled across continents entertaining crowds, he quietly helped create the peaceful home she could always return to after long tours. They were very different people, yet those differences would become the very reason their relationship lasted when so many others around them fell apart. Fame would change Bonnie Tyler's life forever, but it never changed the man waiting for her at home. Through every standing ovation, every disappointment, and every painful goodbye, Robert remained exactly where he had always promised to be. The bond they built would soon face a test that neither of them ever expected. A love story that lasted more than 50 years. For more than half a century, Bonnie Tyler and Robert Sullivan shared something that is becoming harder and harder to find. Their marriage was built long before the fame, the sold-out concerts, and the worldwide success. It began when they were simply two young people trying to build a future together. Neither of them could have known that one day Bonnie would become one of the most recognizable voices in the world. They also could not have known that their love would be tested by disappointment, sacrifice, and heartbreak. Yet through every season of life, they continued walking side by side, proving that some love stories do not need headlines to become extraordinary. Robert first met Bonnie when she was still known by her birth name, Gaynor Hopkins. At the time, she was singing in local clubs across South Wales, hoping someone would notice her talent. She had a powerful dream, but no guarantee that it would ever come true. Robert was already building his own career and was involved in the nightclub business, where their paths crossed. What started as a simple meeting slowly became something much deeper. They discovered they shared many of the same values. Both believed in loyalty, hard work, and staying true to the people they loved. Their relationship grew stronger with every passing year, and before long, they knew they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. When Bonnie's career finally began to take off, everything around them changed. She was traveling across countries, recording albums, appearing on television, and performing in front of thousands of cheering fans. Success arrived faster than either of them could have imagined. Many couples struggle when fame enters their lives because the attention, pressure, and endless travel can slowly pull two people apart. But Bonnie and Robert refused to let that happen. While Bonnie stood beneath bright stage lights, Robert remained the steady person waiting for her when the concerts ended. He never tried to compete with her success. Instead, he became the safe place she could always return to whenever life became overwhelming. Although the world saw Bonnie smiling on stage, there was one dream that remained painfully out of reach. Like many couples, Bonnie and Robert hoped to have children and build a family of their own. For a time, it seemed that dream might finally come true. Then, tragedy struck. Bonnie suffered a miscarriage.
We started to try for a baby then, and stopped all precaution. And I caught almost straight away. It was unbelievable. And I was pregnant only for like 3 months something. And unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
A heartbreaking loss that left both of them carrying a pain few people ever saw. It was one of the darkest moments of their lives. The grief stayed with them, and despite their hopes, they were never able to have children. It was a quiet heartbreak they carried together for many years, choosing to keep much of that sorrow away from the public eye. Bonnie and Robert faced heartbreak together, growing closer through unwavering love and commitment. She devoted herself to her family, music, and the countless fans touched by her songs, embracing her nieces and nephews with deep affection. Robert remained her steadfast partner, celebrating every success while supporting her through life's private struggles. As the years passed, their marriage became one of the longest-lasting relationships in the music world. While many famous couples came and went, Bonnie and Robert remained together through changing times, changing music, and changing generations. Awards, chart-topping songs, and international fame never became more important than the life they had built together. They understood that true success is not measured only by applause or record sales. Sometimes it is measured by having someone who refuses to leave your side when life becomes its hardest. That promise became even more meaningful during Bonnie's final illness. When she was rushed to the hospital in Portugal and underwent emergency surgery, Robert remained close to her throughout the frightening weeks that followed. As doctors fought to save her life, he stayed by her bedside, hoping for another miracle. When Bonnie briefly showed signs of recovery, he shared that hope with the rest of the family. But when her long fight finally came to an end, Robert was still there, holding on to the woman he had loved for more than 5 decades. It was the final act of a love story built on loyalty instead of headlines. Even after 5 decades together, Bonnie Tyler's story was far from over. Her voice continued reaching new generations long after many believed her greatest days had passed. A legend who never stopped creating. While many singers slow down after a few decades, Bonnie Tyler simply kept going. Long after many of her peers had retired quietly from the spotlight, Bonnie continued recording new music. She refused to let time push her aside. She represented the United Kingdom at Eurovision, a massive stage watched by millions of people across Europe. It was proof that even years after her biggest hits, she was still respected as one of the most powerful voices in music. She released the album The Best Is Yet to Come, a title that seemed to reflect her attitude toward life itself. She was not interested in simply living off old hits. She wanted to keep creating. In a surprising and modern twist, Bonnie collaborated with David Guetta and Hypeten, artists from a completely different generation of music. It showed just how timeless her voice truly was, fitting into modern sounds just as easily as it once fit into classic 80s rock ballads. Just weeks before her illness took hold, she released a brand new single called Only Love. Her contributions to music were formally recognized when she received an MBE, a special honor given for her services to music.
Bonnie Tyler, MBE, congratulations. How does it feel?
I'm so happy and so honoured. I'm very, very happy. Thank you.
It was a symbol of just how deeply respected she had become, not just as a hitmaker, but as a true artist. Bonnie was also preparing something very special, a major 50th anniversary tour celebrating Lost in France. the song that had first introduced her to European audiences all those decades ago. Fans everywhere were excited. It felt like a beautiful full-circle moment, a chance to celebrate 50 years of music with the woman who started it all. Then, suddenly, illness changed everything. The tour that fans had been dreaming about would never happen. The celebration that felt so close never got to take place. Even so, Bonnie Tyler's story was far from over. As new generations continued discovering her songs online, in movies, and on the radio, something became clear. Her music was not just something people remembered from the past. As more and more young listeners began finding her songs for the very first time, Bonnie Tyler's greatest legacy was only beginning to reveal itself. Why Bonnie Tyler still matters today. Even decades after her biggest hits first played on the radio, Bonnie Tyler's music refuses to fade away. Total Eclipse of the Heart alone has passed more than 1 billion streams on Spotify. That number is almost impossible to imagine, yet it keeps growing every single day. Proof that new listeners keep discovering her voice all the time. Her songs never stayed locked in the past. They kept showing up everywhere. Movies used her music to bring big emotional moments to life. Television shows played her songs during dramatic scenes. Sporting events blasted "Holding Out for a Hero" to pump up crowds before big games. Weddings played her love songs as couples danced their first dance. Karaoke nights around the world still echo with people trying, and often failing, to hit her powerful high notes. So why does her raw emotional voice still connect with people so many years later? Part of the answer is honesty. Her raspy, imperfect voice never tried to sound polished or perfect. It sounded human. It sounded like real pain, real joy, and real struggle. The kind of voice that feels like it has actually lived through something. Compare that to much of today's music industry, where voices are often smoothed out, corrected, and polished until they sound almost too perfect. Bonnie's voice was never like that. It carried texture, roughness, and emotion that felt real, not manufactured. That honesty is exactly why every new generation keeps finding her. Teenagers hear her songs in movies and search for more. Parents introduce her music to their children. Social media clips introduce her voice to people who were not even born when her biggest hits first topped the charts. Her music refuses to feel old, even though it is decades old. In the end, Bonnie Tyler's greatest achievement was never really about the records she sold or the charts she topped. It was something much bigger than that. It was the lives she quietly touched, one song, one wedding, one karaoke night at a time. The final goodbye. Bonnie Tyler's story began in a small council house in Wales, far away from fame, far away from stages, far away from the applause of millions. She started as a coal miner's daughter, a young girl named Gaynor Hopkins, dreaming a dream that seemed almost impossible for someone from her small town. Her voice was never perfect in the traditional sense. It was raw, rough, and real, and that is exactly why it never stopped connecting with people. Bonnie Tyler is gone now, but the sound she created will not be. Her unmistakable voice will keep echoing through radios, through dance floors, and through generations of fans who never got the chance to see her perform live. While the world says goodbye to Bonnie Tyler, the woman, it will never truly say goodbye to Bonnie Tyler, the voice. That voice, forever raspy, forever powerful, forever unforgettable, will keep singing long after this story ends. What part of her story touched you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below, like this video, and subscribe for more incredible stories just like this one.